Right now in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, Amish farmers are growing a plant that fuels diesel trucks, gas-powered cars, generators, tractors, and lawnmowers, every single engine you own, and they have been doing it legally in the same fields their ancestors planted 300 years ago. The plant produces two different fuels, one for diesel engines, one for gasoline engines, no modifications to your vehicle, no special parts. In 2010, the University of Connecticut proved something with a single number that the oil industry wishes you had never seen: 97%. When you understand what that number means, you will know exactly why this plant was made illegal in 1937. The first time I met an Amish farmer named Reuben, he walked me to the back of his barn, pulled a glass jar off a shelf, poured something that looked like cooking oil into a small diesel tractor. The engine turned over on the first try. No hesitation, no cough, no black smoke. When I asked where he bought the fuel, he looked at me like I had asked the dumbest question in Lancaster County. He pointed to a field behind the barn. "I grew it," he said. "The plant is hemp, industrial hemp, cannabis sativa, and the confusion between hemp and marijuana was manufactured on purpose. Industrial hemp contains less than 0.3% THC. The 2018 Farm Bill made it federally legal to grow anywhere in the United States, as legal as corn. But for 80 years before that bill, hemp was treated the same as a narcotic, and the reason had absolutely nothing to do with anyone getting high. It had everything to do with fuel and money and four men who had more of both than anyone else in America. Hemp seeds contain roughly 30 to 35% oil by weight. That oil can be extracted with a simple cold press. Once you have the oil, it can be converted into biodiesel through a basic chemical process called transesterification. You mix the hemp seed oil with methanol and a small amount of lye. The mixture reacts, separates into two layers. The top layer is raw biodiesel. The bottom layer is glycerin, which you can use to make soap. You wash the biodiesel with water, let it dry, and it is ready to pour into any diesel engine ever manufactured. Not a modified engine, any diesel engine, because the diesel engine was never designed to run on petroleum in the first place. Rudolf Diesel built his engine in the 1890s in Germany. He filed his patent February 28, 1892. The fuel he envisioned was plant oil. In 1900, he demonstrated his engine at the World Exposition in Paris running on peanut oil. The engine ran so quietly that most people watching had no idea it was burning vegetable oil. Diesel wrote that his engine could be fed with vegetable oils and would help considerably in the development of agriculture, and then he died. On September 29, 1913, Rudolf Diesel boarded the post office steamer Dresden in Antwerp, Belgium, traveling to England to meet with the British Royal Navy about installing his engines in their submarines. He retired to his cabin at 10 in the evening. When the steward knocked the next morning, the cabin was empty. The bed had not been slept in. 10 days later, a Dutch fishing crew found a body floating in the North Sea, too decomposed to identify. His son later confirmed the personal items belonged to his father. The newspapers printed two kinds of headlines. Some said suicide, others were darker. Inventor thrown into sea to stop sale of patents to British government. Murdered by agents from big oil trusts. The man who invented the most efficient engine in history, who was days away from giving the British Navy an engine that ran on crops instead of crude oil, vanished into the sea. And after he was gone, nobody at the engine companies pushed to keep plant oil as standard fuel. The petroleum companies simply stepped in and made diesel fuel from crude oil the default. The engine designed to free farmers became the machine that chained them to an oil company. Now for gasoline engines. After you harvest hemp seeds for oil, you still have the entire stalk. Thousands of pounds per acre of woody fibrous material. That stalk is rich in cellulose. Through a process called cellulolysis, the cellulose is broken down into simple sugars. Those sugars are fermented. The fermentation produces ethanol, the same type of alcohol already blended into the gasoline you buy at the pump right now. Every gallon of regular gas in America contains up to 10% ethanol. That blend is called E10. One plant, two fuels, two types of engines, zero waste. Henry Ford understood this before almost anyone. In 1908, his Model T was designed to run on gasoline, ethanol, or any combination of both. By the 1930s, Ford was hosting conferences about a movement called farm commergy. Let farmers grow the raw materials for industry instead of importing everything from petroleum. In August 1941, Ford unveiled a prototype car with body panels made from hemp, soy wheat straw, and flax. Ford demonstrated the strength on camera by swinging an axe into the trunk lid. The axe bounced back. The panel did not dent. The car was designed to run on hemp ethanol. He was 77 years old and swinging an axe at a car he believed would change the world. But by 1941, it was already too late. In 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act was signed into law. Notice the spelling. Marijuana with an H. That was deliberate. The word was Mexican slang. Harry Anslinger, first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, used it because most Americans had never heard it. If he had called it hemp, every farmer would have known. By calling it marijuana, he severed the connection between a useful crop and the law designed to kill it. And he had friends who needed it gone for entirely different reasons. William Randolph Hearst owned newspaper chains, timberland, and paper mills across the country. Hemp produced paper cheaper and faster than wood pulp, direct threat to his business. The DuPont family had just patented nylon and a new chemical process for making paper from wood. Hemp fiber competed with nylon. Hemp paper competed with the wood pulp process. Andrew Mellon, Secretary of the Treasury and the wealthiest man in America, had invested heavily in DuPont. Mellon was also Harry Anslinger's father-in-law. He had personally appointed Anslinger to the narcotics position. And then there was Standard Oil, the Rockefeller empire built on petroleum. Hemp oil as fuel threatened the foundation of everything they sold. These men did not need to conspire in darkness. They had newspapers. They had Congress. They had the Bureau of Narcotics. Hearst's papers ran front-page stories connecting marijuana to violence and crime. Anslinger testified before Congress with cases that had no medical evidence. The American Medical Association sent Dr. William Woodward to oppose the act. He told Congress the claims were not supported by science. His testimony was dismissed. After hearings that got almost no public attention, the act passed August 2nd, 1937. Here's the detail that makes 1937 the most important year in American energy history. That same year, a fuel called Agrol was selling at 2,000 service stations across the American Midwest, 2,000 stations from Indiana to South Dakota. Agrol was an ethanol gasoline blend made at a plant in Atchison, Kansas. The fuel worked, it sold, customers came back, and then sabotage, market manipulation, vicious infighting from the petroleum industry. Agrol sold for 17 cents a gallon. Leaded gasoline sold for 16, a penny difference. The oil industry lobbied against every tax incentive bill that could have closed that gap. Between 1933 and 1939, petroleum interests killed 19 federal bills and 31 state bills aimed at supporting alcohol fuel blending. By 1939, the Atchison Agrol plant closed its doors. 2,000 stations vanished from the map. An entire fuel infrastructure built by farmers. For farmers erased in under 3 years, destroyed in the same 24-month window that the Marijuana Tax Act killed hemp. Same war, same years, different weapons, same winners. But one community never stopped growing. The Amish settled Lancaster County in the early 1700s. They began planting hemp around 1710. By the 1720s, the Pennsylvania General Assembly was paying bounties for every pound of hemp produced. So much hemp was harvested that when Lancaster County was officially formed in 1729, an entire township was named Hempfield. In 1818, the township was divided into East Hempfield and West Hempfield. Both names survive today on every road sign. Historian Les Stark documented more than 100 water-powered mills that processed hemp fiber along Lancaster County waterways before 1870. The crop was woven into rope, canvas, lamp, oil, and paper. The word canvas itself comes from cannabis. When the 1937 Act killed hemp, the Amish lost a crop their families had grown for over 2 centuries. So they adapted. They switched to tobacco, expanded dairy. But the knowledge of what hemp could do never disappeared. It lived in the same unquiet memory that holds every piece of traditional wisdom the Amish carry. Passed from grandfather to grandson, other Americans forgot the plant existed. The Amish simply filed it away and waited. And when the 2018 Farm Bill made hemp legal again, the Amish in Lancaster moved fast. Within 4 years, Amish operations were moving 50,000 pounds of hemp product. Farmers who used no pesticides, no synthetic fertilizer, harvest by hand with horse-drawn equipment, need no electricity to process it. The Amish did not need a government program to tell them what this plant could do. They already knew. They had known for 300 years. In 2010, the University of Connecticut tested something the oil industry wishes had stayed buried. Professor Richard Parnas and his team used virgin hemp seed oil and put it through standard transesterification. 97% of the hemp oil converted to biodiesel. Not 90. Not 93. 97%. It passed every laboratory test. It met American and European biodiesel quality standards. And it had superior cold weather performance. Parnas told reporters that if someone is already growing hemp, they might be able to produce enough fuel to power their whole farm from the seeds alone. One crop, one press, one reactor. Total energy independence. You do not need 40 acres. If you own any diesel engine, you can run it on biodiesel made from hemp seed oil today. You buy cold-pressed hemp seed oil in bulk. Mix it with methanol and lye in a reactor you can build from a used electric water heater for under $300. Plans are available online for free. The ethanol from hemp stalks can be blended with gasoline at 10 to 15% and used in any standard gasoline engine. The federal government issues a free fuel alcohol permit through the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau. You apply, you get approved. You can legally distill ethanol from motor fuel on your own property. 1 acre of hemp produces roughly 700 pounds of grain. Press that, and you get about 20 gallons of biodiesel. That same acre gives you over 5,000 pounds of stock-producing cellulosic ethanol. Between biodiesel from seeds and ethanol from stalks, 1 acre feeds both types of engines from a single harvest. In February 1938, Popular Mechanics published an article with the headline, "New Billion-Dollar Crop." The article was about hemp. It described new machines that could process hemp cheaply. It called hemp the standard fiber of the world and predicted it would create thousands of jobs. Here is what makes this devastating. The article was published 5 months after the Marijuana Tax Act had already gone into effect. 5 months after the law that killed the industry, the most widely read mechanics magazine in the country was telling American farmers they were sitting on a billion-dollar crop. The editors did not know the law had passed. By the time the article hit newsstands, it was already illegal to grow the crop it celebrated. The future was announced at its own funeral. Rudolf Diesel designed an engine for plant oil and disappeared from a ship. Henry Ford built a car from hemp and ran it on hemp fuel and watched the law kill both. 2,000 Agrol stations sold plant-based fuel and were sabotaged into closure. A magazine told America about a billion-dollar crop 5 months after the law buried it. And through 80 years of silence, the Amish kept growing. You were never supposed to know any of this, not the 97%, not the 2,000 stations, not the magazine that arrived after the funeral. You were supposed to keep driving to the gas station and never ask who decided it had to be that way. The Amish asked that question 300 years ago. And they answered it with a seed. Drop hemp in the comments. Tell me what you would fuel first. Hit subscribe, because the next video shows what the Amish build from the part of this plant that never gets burned. I will see you in the next one.